I received a letter from a woman named Going Crazy regarding a relationship she's having with a coworker via text. In this vlog, I'm going to introduce her to Mikhail Bankton's approach to relationships, as dialogues referred to as the aesthetic moment. He explains that social life is fragmented, disorderly, and messy, but a momentary sense of unity can bring about dialogue. He also talks about aesthetic love is when two people respond to each other as whole beings, not just as a fragment. For example, she's only texting while at work, so he only sees her as a coworker. This is based on both of their perceptions because that's their individual reality. And their individual reality is made up from their sensory cues, such as seeing, hearing, and smelling. But these cues can help one to open up. And being open means to be open with people and open to people. And this comes from self-disclosure. Stewart refers to it as relationships should become more deeper, involving more important and sensitive areas. So to get into this aesthetic moment by Mikhail Bankton, it talks about parties in a relationship can occasionally create a fleeting moment of wholeness in which fragments and disorder are temporarily united. So although they text regularly throughout the day, 30 times, as she indicates in her letter, it's momentary. It doesn't go any deeper than that. Stewart also, Baxter in her essay also talks about a sense of unity through a profound respect for the different voices in the dialogue. And it brings about a wholeness, aesthetic wholeness, related to empathy and talking about things that matter to both of them. But this is based on their individual perception, whether it's based on their seeing, smelling, tasting. It's a sensory cue that becomes part of a process because perception is moving all the time and changes depending on what we see in the world. But if she opens up who she is with the people and she opens up to who he is as a person, their relationship can become deeper. Now, also, he has to participate in this as well. He has to be open with her, which it seems that he is because they text quite frequently and she says that they talk deeper, but he's not opening to her, like receiving in what she's saying. They both seem to have a good amount of self-disclosure, but it's only via text, which can cause problems because the relationship needs to go deeper. That's one of the benefits of being disclosing information about oneself. So the impact of the self-disclosure on relationship, based on what Stewart says, is that it becomes a broader, the relationship involves more areas of their life, and it becomes deeper, involving more important, sensitive areas. So part of this is going to have to be what Stewart refers to as focusing on receiving information through the senses. So she has to look for cues based on what she's smelling, hearing, and seeing, not necessarily literally, but very much metaphorically. She can read in his text, but she can't really know how he's saying it because it's in a text and she hasn't met him yet and they don't really deal with each other face to face. So she has to look at those cues individually and decide how she wants to organize them as importance. And then she has to analyze them against her personal interpretations, which include her worldview, her past experiences, what her goals are in life, and what she expects from a relationship. If this is all she wants, then keep going. But if she wants more, then she needs to maybe not call it quits quite yet, but she needs to definitely be direct and tell him that she doesn't want to text anymore. She's ready for something to go deeper. But in doing this, most importantly, she has to be mindful of what he says back to her, because if she wants it to bring about a positive outcome, she has to understand that it's a process, meaning that she needs to be open herself as well as open to who he is as a person. So she can listen, but be mindful of what she's doing while she's listening, and keep her attention focused on the situation at hand, and not necessarily other things that are going on in her life, listening to other people's voices, or letting them stereotype and judge their kind of relationship. So in doing this, in conclusion, she has to ensure that she's looking for a long-term relationship, but still being herself, and not necessarily looking for someone to complete her. Bateson talks about this in his theory, in this essay written by Baxter, that relationships achieve a wholeness in the present, merging the two together, but you still have to be your own individual person. So you have to focus at the task that's at hand, reducing the stimuli of these outside resources, so that you are looking inside and not just for somebody who's to complete you. And you have to listen mindfully both to your cues, your perception, and the other person's message, so that you can heighten the situation and focus on it, and not necessarily listening to the outside voices. You have to concentrate more on the process, so hopefully the outcome will be positive. But Stewart talks about benefits of the relationship, which can be deepening by sharing your reactions, feelings, and personal information. You improve the quality of your relationship, and you validate your perception of that reality, so that you can move the relationship forward. But not telling him, not expressing yourself to him about how you want the relationship to be more than just texting, keeps you out of that relationship. So basically, it sounds like, even from your letter, what you're saying is that you're just having a relationship with yourself. And he may be fearful of rejection, so he's afraid to open himself, not necessarily self-disclosing or opening himself to you, but he's afraid of opening himself with you, so that you see him who he really is, and maybe that's why he does not want to get face-to-face. But you have to talk to him directly about the meaning of openness. And Stewart says to build good relationships, you must be open with other people and open to other people. So in making him comfortable in that, it might make him feel like you will listen to what he's saying and be accepting of what he's saying. I don't necessarily think that you need to call it quits. I do think you need to have an open conversation with him about openness and disclosing and listening. And I think you can then make your decision about how you want to move forward with the relationship.